Picture this. You're on a Greek island. The sun is golden, the sea is sparkling like liquid sapphires, you've got a plate of souvlaki in front of you, and maybe a glass of ouzo in hand. Life feels like you're in a travel brochure, but then, vroom, you hear the roar of Turkish fighter jets overhead. Suddenly, paradise looks less like a holiday postcard and more like the start of World War III. And the burning question is, if Turkey actually tried to take one of Greece's islands, could Greece defend it? Let's not drag this out. We're heading straight into the Aegean chessboard. The Aegean Sea is not just pretty beaches and Instagram sunsets. It's a labyrinth of over 200 inhabited Greek islands and thousands more uninhabited rocks and islets sprinkled between mainland Greece and Turkey. Some of them are so close to Turkey that you could kayak over with nothing but strong arms and a bottle of sunscreen. This geography is a blessing and a curse. For Greece, the islands are like unsinkable aircraft carriers, each one bristling with soldiers, artillery, and missiles. But they're also scattered, isolated, and vulnerable if Turkey makes a sudden move. And yes, the history between Greece and Turkey is the fuel that makes all of this explosive. Greece spent centuries under Ottoman rule before breaking free in the 1820s. After World War I, things got even uglier. Entire populations were swapped in the 1920s. Millions of Greeks from Anatolia forced into Greece, and Turks expelled in the other direction. Then Cyprus exploded in 1974 when Turkey invaded the north of the island after a Greek-backed coup. Since then, the two countries have eyed each other across the Aegean like two neighbors who both refused to move their car from the shared driveway. In fact, in 1996, they almost went to war over two tiny barren rocks in the Aegean called Emia or Kardak, if you're Turkish. These rocks had no people, no resources, just goats and seagulls. Yet both countries nearly threw their navies at each other for them. That's how sensitive the Aegean really is. But how do things stand today? Well, Greece may be smaller in population, but it's heavily armed for this exact fight. Its navy is built for Aegean warfare. Picture Greek submarines lurking silently, ready to ambush Turkish ships before they even leave port. Picture fast attack craft darting between islands like caffeinated hornets, loaded with anti-ship missiles. Then there's the Hellenic Air Force, one of Europe's most capable. They've got upgraded F-16, brand new French Rafales, and soon shiny F-35 stealth fighters. And on the islands themselves, garrisons of Greek troops, infantry, artillery, anti-air, and anti-ship systems. These aren't just sleepy fishing communities, they're armed fortresses. The Greek strategy is simple but effective. Fortify the islands, deny access, survive the opening shock, and bleed out the enemy until reinforcements arrive. Turkey, though, is no lightweight. It's got the second largest army in NATO, behind only the US, and a growing navy with ambitions of becoming a regional powerhouse. Their pride and joy is the Anadolu, an amphibious assault ship that can carry marines, helicopters, and drones. The Turkish Air Force is still large, though weaker since the 2016 coup purges removed hundreds of experienced pilots. And unlike Greece, Turkey's geography gives it home field advantage. Its troops and supplies are just across the water, ready to move quickly. But here's where we need to talk history. Amphibious invasions are among the hardest operations in warfare. They look dramatic in movies, but in real life, they're nightmares. Let's look at some examples. D-Day in 1944. The Allies succeeded, but only with overwhelming force, total control of the skies, and support from an armada of thousands of ships. Even then, they suffered horrific casualties on the beaches. Gallipoli in 1915. The Allies tried to land on the Turkish coast against entrenched Ottoman defenders. The result? A disaster. Tens of thousands dead. The campaign failed, and the Turks, ironically, proved just how difficult it is to storm defended coastlines. And then there's the Falklands in 1982. The British had to retake islands seized by Argentina. They succeeded, but it required one of the most complex amphibious operations in modern history, and they took heavy losses along the way. Now imagine Turkey trying something similar against islands bristling with Greek defenses within easy range of Greek jets and submarines. It's not just difficult, it's suicidal. And then there's NATO. Both Greece and Turkey are technically allies, but when they fight, NATO prefers to look the other way. It's like two cousins fist fighting at a family barbecue you while Uncle NATO quietly gets another beer and mutters, "Not my problem." In reality, NATO wouldn't intervene unless things spiraled completely out of control. But let's play out some scenarios anyway. Scenario 1, the quick grab. Turkey seizes a small Greek island right off its coast, hoping to shock Greece and the world before anyone can react. But Greek islands aren't unguarded. They're fortified with garrisons, artillery, and anti-air missiles. Turkish marines storming a beach would quickly find themselves cut to pieces, while Greek submarines and jets pounced within hours. A quick grab would likely turn into a quick humiliation. Scenario 2, the big push. Turkey goes for a Cyprus-style operation, launching paratroopers, amphibious landings, and naval cover to overwhelm multiple islands at once. Sounds dramatic, right? But remember Gallipoli. Remember the Falklands. Amphibious assault ships like the Anadolu are massive floating targets. One Greek exocet missile could sink it in minutes. Greek submarines would make any crossing a deadly gamble. This wouldn't be Cyprus 1974, it would be Gallipoli 2.0, only this time the defenders have cruise missiles. Scenario 3, the escalation spiral. Instead of landings, the fight spills into the skies and seas. Both sides hammer each other's air bases, ships, and infrastructure. Suddenly, it's not about the islands anymore. It's about survival. The EU panics, NATO pretends not to notice until the global economy starts to shake, and suddenly you've got diplomats flying in with peace plans before the Aegean turns into a graveyard. So, can Greece defend its islands from Turkey? Short answer, yes. Long answer, Turkey could try, but it would cost them ships, planes, and thousands of lives, only to end up bogged down in a war they cannot win. Amphibious invasions are some of the riskiest operations in warfare, and history shows they usually end in disaster when the defenders are prepared. Greece has spent decades preparing. In other words, the Aegean may look calm and beautiful on the surface. Blue water, whitewashed houses, lazy ferries chugging between islands, but underneath, it's a shark tank. Every island is armed, every shipping lane is watched, and every stretch of sea is within range of someone's missile system. Militarily, it's one of the toughest battlefields on Earth, a place where geography itself is a weapon. If Turkey ever tried to storm those islands, they wouldn't just be fighting Greek soldiers. They'd be fighting the terrain, the sea, and history itself. It would look less like a clean, decisive strike and more like writing the sequel to Gallipoli, except this time it's the Turks running headfirst into the meat grinder, with modern precision weapons turning beaches into graveyards. So, can you finish that ouzo on the beach? Realistically, probably not. The moment things kick off, the island cafe turns into an artillery position. The ferries become potential troop transports, and the sea around you becomes a hunting ground for submarines. By the time you try to sprint to the harbor, there's a good chance that ferry you're counting on has already been turned into Swiss cheese, or worse, confetti by a Greek torpedo. At that point, your best bet isn't escape. It's hoping the waiter serving your souvlaki also doubles as a soldier, because on a Greek island, he probably does.